The word Atma is commonly used to mean the inner self, the self of I am within one body. The word Paramātmā simply means that the same I am without limits. Not the self inside one person, but the same presence functioning through all bodies, all beings, all forms. Just as electricity powers many bulbs without becoming many different electricities, the word Paramatma points to the one life appearing as many lives. It is not a separate soul watching the world, it is not a higher person above everything, it is the same awareness awakening, looking through every pair of eyes, beating every heart, animating every form. It does not look at the world, it does not relate to parts, it does not observe from a distance. It knows itself as itself, without division, without inside or outside. This is not an awakening from sleep, not a sudden insight like waking up in the morning. It is the unfolding of generations of conditioning, the loosening of programming, the falling away of habit of separation. The sense of being someone attached to a name, a body, a calendar, a story is not a mistake and not a fault. It is how the contrast becomes possible. That which the word Paramatma points to was present before life was divided into names, before consciousness knew itself as mind, before language, before anything was called insect, birds, animals, human, or this world. There were no definitions, no difference, no categories, no distinction between life and non-life. Yet that which allows life was already there. It later moved as insect, it lived as birds, it functioned as animals, it appeared as human beings. The mind now says, this is life, this is matter, this is nature, this is universe, but these divisions arise with consciousness as experience, not before it. Without beings that experience separation, there is no world divided into things. Even a bird fears because it feels separation. That fear is functional. Without it, the bird would not fly. Insects flee, animals protect, bodies avoid harm. Separations appear as a mechanism for survival, not as an original truth. But before any being could feel separation, before fear, before instinct, before identity, that which is now called Paramatma did not need a name and did not know itself as many. If it were not already present, nothing could have evolved, nothing could have moved, nothing could have appeared. What came later was not existence but definition, and definition requires consciousness as mind. So when it is said Paramatma was already there, this does not mean it existed as an object or as a form watching from outside. It means this. Before separation was experienced, there was no separation to overcome. And even now, what allows separation to appear has never itself been divided. If there were never separation, even the word Paramatma would lose its meaning because there would be no second thing to define it against. Yet once individuality forms, there is little interest to dissolve it. The individual wants to continue to protect itself, to improve, to succeed, to be remembered. That is why what Paramatma points to is rarely realized. Not because it is hidden, but because where individuality remains active, there is fear, there is attachment, bondage, and motive. As long as there is a center, life is like a glass building. No matter how clean or beautiful it looks, the fear of it breaking remains. Because the center is attached to the body as me. In that seeing, the contrast becomes clear. The body, like the building, is temporary, and fear belongs to what knows it can break. So the center keeps working to protect itself, to maintain itself, to own more, to compete. to feel secure, and where Paramātmā is, none of that exists. No fear because there is nothing outside of it. No attachment because there is nothing separate. No bondage because there is no center to bind. It is everywhere and everything, yet untouched by any form, and even these words do not describe it. They only point to where the pointing ends. And the mind cannot discover this while remaining within division, because that which Paramātmā points to is not divided. When nothing is touched, it is seen that what Paramātmā points to was never missing. Discovery implies time, knowing implies a knower, awakening implies that something was asleep. None of that implies here. There is no awakening to Paramātmā, only the falling away of what was never it. Not something gained, not something realized, not something achieved. Simply the end of assumption that there was ever a center from which it needed to be known. What remains was never absent. These are just words. The word Paramātmā does not become what it points to. Just like a word paper does not become paper itself. Paper is just a knowledge of what we know as paper. Mind cannot know it because mind is divided. Mind sees everything divided. You cannot see anything without that division. But Paramātmā, that is beyond even the singular self, that singular being that believes the center, the knower, the self, is everything within every fiber of this universe. And you don't need anything at all because that who wants to know is part of that division. It is complicated, that's why these talks don't make any sense to the mind. But if these words go beyond the mind, that which is already that, then you don't need these words. That is already present. Just like there is current in this camera, there is current in this microphone, the current is not absent. You can only see the form. But the form cannot function without that current. And this current and that current and that current is not separate things. The current does not say that I am separate. This form will get rusty or over period deteriorate. But the current does not. Does not mean that how the mind says current is that what word Paramātmā points to. These are just examples. That is not a current even. Because current you can feel it. That what is called Paramātmā or with many other names, you can't even feel it because that itself, all there is. Nothing else exists. It is simple but complicated when it is heard through the mind. Because mind only knows division. You understand these words because their understanding requires so many different things, and so many different things are put together with words. Language is created and communication happens. And communication happens only when there is division. These words can only point to things. And when we say things, things mean division. So many things the mind says. That itself has no division at all, and that what is named by many names is not separate things, not separate beings, not separate groups, does not fight with each other. It is all there is. The mind fights. The human mind, the divided mind, the self, the center, the me fights with other. The groups fight with different groups. That is the cause of suffering, nothing else. When the center dissolves, then nothing is missing, and that cannot be destroyed by just how the mind understands destruction, cutting up something, body, old age. No. It is, that's why it is hard to understand. Because even awakening, the mind understands that someone needs to wake up, like, you already awake. Aren't you awake right now? In this moment, isn't something watching? But someone is watching, that is the false. The watching itself is.